My daughter did not invite me to her wedding, but the night she finally texted, "Mom, we need to talk. Come over tonight." I walked into her Charleston home holding the one folder that could end everything she had been hiding. Candace stood near the kitchen island, arms crossed tight, her smile thin enough to cut paper. Her husband, Darren Hall, didn't bother pretending. He looked at me the way a man looks at a banker he intends to charm. "Mom," Candace said, her voice soft in a way I hadn't heard in years. "Thank you for coming. We really need your help." Help. That was always the word she reached for when she wanted something. Never mother. Never sorry. Never anything that cost her pride. I set the folder on the counter without opening it. "You sounded urgent," I said. Darren stepped forward. "We just need a bridge, a small one. Your hotel chain is worth $100 million now, right? This is nothing to you." Candace shot him a look, then tried to soften it with a breathy laugh. "Ignore him. He's stressed." "We both are." Things got complicated. "Mom, we thought maybe you could support us. For family's sake." Family. She said it like she still believed the word meant something between us. I stayed quiet. Silence has a weight, and I let it settle on the room until Darren shifted and Candace's fingers began tapping the counter. She glanced at the folder. "What is that?" she asked. "Something I brought for tonight." I said, "Since you asked me to come prepared." Her face tightened. "Mom, please don't make this dramatic. You were never good with pressure. You always fell apart when things mattered." For a moment, her voice blurred into another memory the day I learned she married without me. The photographs I wasn't meant to see. The life she built with no place for her mother. I rested my hand on the folder. Steady, intentional. Before I opened it, the past rose like a tide, pulling me back to the beginning, to the wound that started all of this. It was almost 1 year earlier when I learned my daughter was getting married. Not through an invitation, not through a phone call, but through a Facebook post from my neighbor, Mrs. Turner. She knocked on my door that morning with her tablet clutched to her chest. "Eulalie," she whispered. "I thought you already knew." She turned the screen toward me. There was Candace, my only child, standing in a white lace gown beside a floral arch. A caption read, "Rehearsal dinner vibes." My breath left me in a single, sharp sound. I opened the app on my own phone, only to see a notification. "You can no longer view this profile." Candace had blocked me. She once told me she needed space, that boundaries keep things simple. I never imagined simple meant removing her mother entirely. Nellie Carter, my closest friend, came over the moment she heard. "You march over there," she said. "You demand to know why she'd do this." "I won't beg," I replied. "Not for a place in a life she's already rewritten." Nellie's eyes softened. "You're still her mother." "Not in the version she wants," I said. On the day of the wedding, Charleston felt louder than usual, tour boats calling across the water, carriage wheels clattering along the cobblestones. I sat alone on a bench by the harbor, hands folded tightly in my lap. Every few minutes, someone walked by in bright dresses or suits, and each time my chest tightened. Nellie texted, "Are you sure you don't want company?" I typed back, "I'm fine." Then I shut off my phone. I didn't want witnesses. The ache didn't arrive all at once. It came in waves, one when I imagined Candace walking down an aisle I wasn't allowed to see. Another when I pictured Darren's mother adjusting her veil. And the worst when I realized Candace preferred a stranger in my place. By dusk, I finally let my head drop into my hands. Not a sound escaped me. But the collapse was absolute. The kind that leaves something inside permanently altered. I stayed there until the sky went dark, trying to understand how a daughter could decide her mother no longer belonged in her story. After my husband died, the only thing left in my name was a tiny beachside motel on Sullivan's Island. 12 rooms, thin walls, a sign that flickered every time the wind picked up. I rebuilt my life one guest at a time, cleaning rooms in the morning, fixing pipes in the afternoon, balancing books after midnight. Candace was still in elementary school then, watching me juggle everything with hands that never seemed to stop shaking from exhaustion. She didn't understand any of it. By middle school, she started asking me to drop her off 2 blocks from the building. "Your car makes noise," she whispered once, cheeks red. "Everyone can hear it. It still gets us where we need to go." I told her, "That's not the point," she muttered, opening the door before I could say more. The worst memory came when she was 9. A storm had flooded half the motel rooms, and I spent the entire day dragging soaked mattresses into the parking lot. Candace ran up to me in tears. "Mom, please. You promised you'd come to my recital. They're lining up now." I looked at the destroyed rooms, then at her little dress clinging damp against her legs. "I cannot leave, sweetheart. Guests are arriving tonight. I will make it up to you. You never do," she whispered. She turned away, and the door slammed behind her. She stopped asking me to come to anything after that. As the years passed, shame hardened inside her. I overheard her once on the phone with a friend in college. "My mom runs this motel," she said, lowering her voice. "It is not glamorous. I just hope Darren never sees it." Darren Hall arrived in her life like someone carrying a mirror. He encouraged every insecurity, every fear of not being polished enough. When he told her she deserved better, she believed him completely. Their world grew glossier, and mine stayed small. Candace learned to tuck me into the corners of her life where no one else had to see me. After the wedding, I was never allowed to attend. I went back to the only place that had never shut its doors on me, my motel on Sullivan's Island. I cleaned until my hands ached, scrubbed until my knees throbbed, and patched drywall until midnight. Work dulled the ache better than anything else. At least walls did not lie, and floors did not pretend I was invisible. One afternoon, while I replaced old light bulbs in the hallway, a guest paused beside me. "You run this whole place alone?" she asked. "For now." I said, "Well, it feels warmer than most luxury hotels I have stayed in." That comment stayed with me. Warm. Not fancy. Not perfect. Warm. I began leaning into it, introducing small, eco-friendly touches. Handwritten welcome notes. Herbal teas I blended myself. It was not much, but it was intentional, and it mattered. A few months later, a travel writer from Charleston visited. I did not know who she was until she checked out. "You created a quiet refuge here," she told me. "Women traveling alone will love this." I almost cried right there behind the counter. Days after the review came out, a sharp-eyed consultant named Margot Liu walked into the lobby. She introduced herself with a firm handshake. "You have something rare," she said. "You can scale this if you want to. Folly Beach could use a place like this. Expand." I laughed. "With what money?" "Start small," she replied. "Let the demand tell you what to do next." 6 months later, Folly Beach opened with 10 rooms and a waiting list. The Charleston Lodge followed. Women arrived with books, broken hearts, and quiet stories. They said they felt seen. That was how the brand began quiet luxury for women traveling alone. A life that had once felt too small suddenly stretched into something beautiful, shaped by the pieces of me I thought no one wanted. I was reviewing reservation numbers in my small Charleston waterfront office when Margot burst through the door, breathless and flushed. "Eulalie, you need to sit down," she said. "I am already sitting." I replied, trying to smile. "No, really. Sit." She pressed her laptop in front of me, hands trembling just enough to betray her excitement. "It is official. The valuation came through." I stared at the number on the screen. $100 million, she whispered. "You did it. For a moment, the room felt too still. I covered my mouth with both hands, the weight of years and sacrifices pressing against my ribs. "Margot, are you sure?" She laughed. I triple-checked. "Congratulations, Eulalie. This is your turning point." I leaned back, dizzy. My husband would never see this. My daughter would never know the nights I slept on lobby couches, because payroll came first. All the things I carried alone suddenly felt lighter, as if someone had finally witnessed the work I thought no one ever would. Margot squeezed my shoulder. "Enjoy this moment. You earned every piece of it." But before the warmth of her words could settle, my phone buzzed. I glanced down. Candace. The name alone tightened my throat. The message read, "Mom, we need to talk. Come over tonight." That was it. No greeting, no acknowledgement, no single word about the valuation that had just been announced. Only a pull, the kind she used whenever life threatened to expose the cracks she tried so hard to hide. Margot watched my face shift. "Everything all right? My daughter wants to see me," I said. She raised an eyebrow. After 3 years of silence, interesting timing, I turned the phone face down on the desk. She never reaches out without a reason, and you already know it is not for congratulations. Margot murmured. I nodded. The truth slid cold across my chest. Something is wrong. Terribly wrong. Outside the window, the harbor moved in slow, steady waves. But inside my office, another tide had begun, one I could no longer ignore. Margot returned to my office before the afternoon was over. She did not knock. She closed the door behind her and locked it, something she had never done in all the years we worked together. "Eulalie," she said quietly. I looked into Candace's situation. I set my pen down. "Tell me." She placed a thick stack of papers on my desk. These were not easy to obtain. Most of them were buried under shell companies, but they all connect back to your daughter and her husband. I slid my glasses on and opened the first page. The signature staring back at me was mine, my full legal name, written in a shaky imitation of my handwriting. "Margot," I said. "I did not sign this. I know." Her voice was firm. "There are 5 separate real estate loans, all tied to projects Darren started. All are months behind. All are heading toward foreclosure. And every single one lists you as the guarantor." My throat tightened. "They forged me." I whispered. "They used you," Margot corrected. "And they expect you to show up tonight ready to save them. This is not a family visit. This is a rescue mission they want you to fund." A slow numbness spread through my chest. I turned the pages. Missed payments. Contractor disputes. Fines. Notices. My name was everywhere, scribbled in Darren's practiced slant. I reached for my phone. "I need Reese." Attorney Reese Coleman answered on the second ring. I told him what I was holding. He did not interrupt. "Send me scanned copies," he said. "But from what you described, these documents are absolutely illegal. They hold you financially responsible whether you signed or not. It is fraud stacked on fraud." I exhaled, steadying myself. "How fast can we move fast?" he replied. "Because someone else is also making offers on this debt. Another investor is circling." I felt something inside me harden into resolve. "Not before I do," I said. Margot met my eyes. Recognizing the shift, she nodded once, already reaching for her laptop, ready to follow my lead. The folder on my desk no longer looked like a burden. It looked like a turning point. Margot cleared her schedule within minutes. By nightfall, my office looked like a war room, laptops open, documents spread across every inch of the table. Legal pads filled with numbers that made my eyes sting. "These lenders will not wait." Margot said, "If that outside investor makes a formal bid first, we lose our chance to control the portfolio. Then we move faster," I replied. Reese joined us by video call, his voice steady even as he warned us about the risks. Eulalie, if you take on this debt, you are taking on years of mismanagement. Darren burned bridges with contractors, inspectors, banks. You could lose millions before you stabilize anything. I spent years losing pieces of myself. I said, money is easier to rebuild. Margot glanced at me with something like awe. If we do this, we will need signatures tonight, then bring me the papers for the next several hours. The only sounds were clicking keyboards and the soft scrape of my pen as I signed loan transfers, lien buyouts, and emergency acquisition agreements. My hand cramped. My back ached. My doubt flashed once brief, sharp, when I saw the total debt number written out in full words. But fear passed quickly. This is not revenge, I said quietly as I signed another packet. This is reclaiming what they took without asking. At 2 a.m, Margot rubbed her forehead. We just need 2 more lenders. They are awake in different time zones. Reese is pushing them. By 4. She looked up from her screen. They agreed. All of them. I set my pen down. So it is done. By sunrise, Margot confirmed. You will own every dollar tied to their properties. I waited for triumph, for anger, for something explosive. Instead, a cool calm settled in my chest, steady and controlled. I had spent a lifetime being pulled by other people's needs. Not anymore. When dawn crept through the blinds, I stood, stretched my aching shoulders, and opened my closet. I need to look my daughter in the eye tonight, I said, and I need her to see exactly who she underestimated. Candace's home looked exactly the way she curated her life, online pristine, pale, and touched by decorators she pretended she did not hire. I stepped inside holding the folder, the same one that had sat heavy in my hands since dawn. Candace greeted me with an impatient smile. Mom, finally, we have been waiting. Darren did not bother pretending. Let's get to it, he said. We need a few million to stabilize things, just until the market swings back. Candace nudged his arm. Do not talk to her like that. Then she turned to me with a sweeter expression. Mom, we would really appreciate your support. You understand how business goes. You want a few million, I repeated. That is quite an ask. Darren scoffed. Your company is worth $100 million. This is nothing to you, Candace added. You should be proud we trusted you enough to come to you. Trust. She used the word with no hesitation. I set the folder on the marble counter. Before you explain your needs, I said, you should understand your debts. Candace frowned. Mom, what is that? I opened the folder slowly, sliding out the first document, the forged signature. This is my name, I said, written in a hand that is not mine. This signature appears on 5 real estate loans. Candace's face drained of color. Mom, wait. Darren cut in. Candace handled those forms. I had nothing to do with that. She whipped toward him. Do not lie. You said it was safe, I continued, placing the next papers on the counter. Contractors have filed complaints. Inspectors flagged violations. Every loan is months behind. All of this traces back to you two. Candace shook her head violently. Mom, please. We were desperate. You were doing well. You thought I would never find out, I said. Darren slammed his palm on the counter. Just pay the lenders and we can move on. I closed the folder. You do not owe the bank anymore. Candace blinked, confused. What? What does that mean? You owe me, I said. I purchased every dollar of your debt. Silence cracked open between us. Sharp and final. Candace stumbled back, tears streaking her cheeks. You are ruining my life. I stood tall, steady. You erased me from your wedding. Tonight, I am erasing you from my liability. Neither of them followed me as I walked toward the door. the folder tucked calmly under my arm. I stepped out of Candace's house without raising my voice, without apologizing, and without looking back. The click of the door behind me felt cleaner than any goodbye I had ever spoken. Behind the glass, Darren's voice rose first. "You cannot do this, Eulalie. We will fight you on every inch of it." Candace followed with a choked scream. "Mom, please, you cannot leave it like this. Talk to me." Their words chased me down the walkway, sharp and frantic. But I kept moving. The night air was cool against my face, steadying me with every breath for years. Their voices dictated my choices. Tonight, they meant nothing. Mom Candace cried again, the sound cracking. "Do not turn your back on me." I did not give her the satisfaction of pausing. My feet kept their rhythm toward the street. Each step, a piece of my life falling back into place. When I reached my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed Reese. He answered before the first ring finished. "Is it done?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Proceed with the repossessions." Reese exhaled sharply, already moving into action. "Understood. You will have full control within days. One more thing," I added. "I want every seized property converted into housing programs for women over 60. Safe places, quiet places. Somewhere they can start over." He paused. "That is a powerful choice." "Eulalie, it is overdue," I replied, then ended the call. By the time I started the engine, my voicemail icon blinked with new messages. Candace's voice filled the first one furious, spitting blame. The second trembled with panic. The third softened into apologies she had never offered when they mattered. I deleted them without listening through. As I drove away, the house behind me shrank until it was nothing but a pale outline in the dark, a place that no longer held any claim on my heart. The only sound left was the quiet hum of the road beneath my tires, steady and sure, carrying me toward a life that would no longer revolve around people who mistook my love for something they could use and abandon. The repossession orders went through faster than Reese predicted. Within 2 weeks, Candace's mansion shifted into my portfolio, and within another week, architects began walking through it with notebooks and measuring tapes. One of them asked, "You want all of this converted into housing for older women?" "Yes," I said. "Every room." He nodded, already sketching. Darren fell first. News broke that he had falsified financial reports for several of his projects. He was taken in for questioning, and soon after, charges were filed. Candace tried to shield him, but she had her own trouble. The state issued heavy fines for identity misuse and fraud. When reporters camped outside her temporary rental, she slammed the door on them. One journalist called me for a comment. I answered only once. I hoped they learned something from this. Then I hung up. The local news stations ran the whole story, my daughter forging my name. The debt collapse, the quiet takeover, the new housing initiative. Candace's face flashed across screens with headlines she could not control. She had spent years living for appearances, and now appearances were the very thing undoing her. I did not celebrate any of it, not the justice, not the impact, not the headlines. I simply stood inside the lobby of my newest hotel overlooking the Charleston harbor and breathed. The light reflected off the water in soft gold streaks. It felt like someone had finally opened a window inside my chest. Margot joined me. "You did something remarkable," she said. "I did something necessary," I replied. She touched my arm gently. "How do you feel I thought about the mansion becoming a refuge? The women who would live there, the ones who had been erased in their own ways. I thought about Candace's voice in those old voicemails, shifting from fury to fear to hollow apologies. "I feel free," I said, for the first time in decades. Before Margot could respond, my phone buzzed again. Comments pouring in on the news story. I smiled faintly. "If you want to hear the rest," I murmured, "like the video, leave a comment." and subscribe. I looked out at the water once more. I did not lose a daughter that night, I said softly. I lost the last illusion that kept me small.